We're just waiting for a couple of people.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Welcome everyone tonight to our Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, May the 24th, 2022. We are glad that you're here. All of our commissioners are in attendance tonight with the exception of Wanda Nye, who has been excused. We have this special time at the very beginning of our meeting for public comment. And if anyone has any comment that they would like to make, you're welcome to come to the podium. Let us know who you are and where you reside, which city, and we'll be glad to hear it. We ask, since we have a very busy agenda, that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Do we have anybody that wants to say anything? All right, then we'll go on to presentations and reports. Mr. Eggett?
Thank you. As noted in the work session, I'm just going to follow the community development project status report from the city council meeting last week. Two Hoosier Cyclery has relocated and opened their new store here on 900 West, just off of Riverdale Road. They've relocated from South Ogden to our community, so if you want to go get a new bike, there's the place to go, or get your bike fixed, there's the place to go. Maverick continues to move forward on their project off of 1500, and Cheddar Scratch Kitchen continues to move forward on its project there off of Riverdale Road in front of Lowe's. We hope to see something coming out of the ground hopefully soon. Take 5 received their building permit last week, so that's good. Hope to see that project start to move forward next to the north of Denny's. Fizz Drink still is planned to come, and so is J-Dogs. The only other thing I noted, we do have a legislative update from 2022 that I plan to share with the Planning Commission and the public at a later date, hopefully at the next meeting on the 14th of June, and I think that's it. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Mr. Eggett. Next item on our agenda is the consent items. These include the minutes from May the 10th, 2022, and November the 9th, 2021, which were, we hadn't realized had been omitted. Commissioners, any comments or motion?
I move that we approve the consent items.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. And we're moving right to action items. Number 1A, review and discussion of a proposed rezone request for property located at approximately 3450 South Parker Drive, Riverdale, Utah, as requested by Hugh Park. Mr. Eggett.
Thank you. Just going over what's in your packet. This is a new rezone request for property located at 3450 Parker Drive, approximately on the Purin property. This has been submitted by Hugh Park recently. It is de novo review for this request. So the old request, he has since asked to have canceled or removed from the table and move forward with this request for an R16. You'll see the application in your packet. The fee has been paid, and the site has been noticed, and the detailed explanation of his reason for the rezone request is found in there as well. You'll see thereafter the Area 5 general plan showing the property area he's got circled and what it identifies the use as, and then a description of it per our general plan. So really not a whole lot to say other than to note to the Planning Commission and the public that this is a new review that he would like to have scheduled. The next available Planning Commission date would be the June 14th, 2022 date, if you desire to go that direction. And with that, I'll defer to the Planning Commission for any comments, questions, or moving on to item B. Thank you.
Anyone? No questions, no comments? Then we'll move on to item B, consideration to set a public hearing for proposed rezone request from agricultural A1 zoning to single-family residential R16 zoning for property located at approximately 3450 South Parker Drive, Riverdale, as requested by Hugh Park.
I make a motion that we set the public hearing for the proposed rezone to June 14th
Second?
from
Oops.
the A1 zoning to single-family residential R16 zoning for the property located at approximately 3450 South Parker Drive, Riverdale, Utah 84405, as requested by Hugh Park.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that is unanimous. Thank you so much. We'll move on to action item 2, consideration to approve Chick-fil-A site plan, amendment approval extension request for 6 months, period, for property located at 4067 South Riverdale Road. Riverdale is requested by Chick-fil-A and Merrick Engineering. Mr. Agate.
Thank you. And you noted Merrick Engineering, they're represented by Logan Vogt and Chris Weiss. Are you Chris? Okay, so Chris is present tonight with us to come up and answer any questions you might have. This request is an extension on it. The city council approved the Chick-fil-A amendment about a year ago. I think it was the first meeting in June for the city council. So this request was definitely timely, even if it was a second meeting in June. Per our city codes under Title 10, Chapter 25, I can't remember the section in the article, but anyway, the Planning Commission is the reviewing and approving body for an extension based upon findings of fact to justify an additional 6-month period of time. So you see that request was submitted by their team, and then you'll see thereafter on May 12th, 2022, their company, Merrick, on behalf of Chick-fil-A, submitted an explanation of the request, the purposes of it, the justification, if you will, that it's not just, hey, we haven't got around to it, but there's legitimate justification for that request. So with that sets up the circumstances. Again, as a executive decision-making body here, a motion would be in order to approve or table or deny based on whatever decision-making you have. And then obviously we would act accordingly as staff and working with them with that. Now, I will note that I believe the building permit, it has been issued for this project, but again, there's just some challenges that they're having, as noted in the packet, with some of the ownership and access through easements and such around the property. So with that, I'll defer to the Planning Commission and go from there. Thank you.
Okay. Would you like to come forward and give us your name and your city of residence?
Yeah, hi, my name is Christopher Wiest. I'm from Greenwood Village, Colorado. Here representing Chick-fil-A as part of American Company.
Thank you. Commissioners, anybody have a question?
I move that we approve the extension. I'm sorry.
I just,
Go ahead.
how come why are we extending it again for another 6 months?
So the permit is expiring, I believe.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A is part of this is a nationwide program in terms of updating some of their existing stores. As part of that, they have third-party approvals with some of the landlords and adjacent uses that they have to seek approval from, and they're still just in the process of trying to get those approvals. It has been a long process, but they think they're getting close.
Okay.
So
It basically comes down to some new ownership around the site. As you may be aware, there was a previous owner, but that ownership, as we discussed in the work session and is noted there,
okay.
has been changed. And so they're having to realign all the access and rights to
Right,
use and
okay.
access to the
Sorry.
property. Yeah.
Okay.
Any
Go
further?
ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Rick.
I move that we approve the extension for Chick-fil-A. What is it called? The site plan approval extension for 6-month period for the property located at 4067 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, is requested by Chick-fil-A and Merrick Engineering due to the fact that they have been working with the access with the property owners.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And that is unanimous. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, action item 3, consideration to recommend city council approval of the hillside at Riverdale subdivision property located at approximately 1550 West Ritter Drive, Riverdale, Utah, as requested by Riverdale Living LLC and Service Mortgage Corporation. Mr. Agate.
Thank you. And they're represented tonight by Josh Yates and Jen Barlow, respectively. Their engineer on this project is Mike Staten. The project area is in a single-family residential R-1-6 zone. Excuse me. As you noted, at about 1550 West Ritter Drive. The ownership on this property is Riverdale Living LLC, L. Leon Polson Revocable Trust, half et al., and Service Mortgage Corp. The existing uses are single-family dwellings, abandoned residential structure, accessory structures, and undeveloped agricultural areas or semi-agricultural use areas. The general plan for this area is residential low density, and this proposed project would comply with the planned use in the area of the city, and obviously the zoning is the R16, as I noted. Going down through the review comments, looking first at the planning and zoning comments, there was a conversation had with our public works director. No worries. There was a conversation had with our public works director where he had noted that he had noted on lot 12 that it would be good to have a note added to the plat identifying that the maintenance and liability of the entire parcel is the responsibility of the lot 12 owner, kind of like we have already for note 7 on the driveways on Ritter Drive, just so that the maintenance and responsibility associated with lot 12 is clear. So that's something that seemed to resonate and make sense, and could be something that we think could be done, so that obviously if there's a title search, it would be clear. On the plat sheet, we did notice too, lot 1 should be added to note 7 as having no vehicular access to Ritter Drive. It probably won't happen, but just to make it clear that one should be added. The only other note that I know, well, two more on the plans. It's kind of clear where the right of way sits, but we like to have the wording right of way or ROW clearly spelled out, so we just know where those right of way edges are. It's very obvious. There's no question. So, again, I know it sounds kind of simple, but it is something that is helpful. So if we could have that shown at least a little bit, making it clear where those right of way lines sit. And then finally, my last comment is, again, this is a conversation I had with the Public Works Director about basically rear drainage. On the properties, I believe he said they are to the north, there's a rear sump drainage is what it's called. And his concern is if that drainage were to fail or have challenges or not be maintained, that it could overspill and potentially drain into neighboring property owners. We had some of these challenges, ironically, with Coleman Farms. And it was well after the subdivision had been approved and residents were living in their homes, and then we had some weird drainage problems. Now, it may not be the same drain system here, so the drain system itself might be sufficient, but there was just some concern. We don't want any over drainage or over spillage. So I made a comment on the last page. It just said, "On property drainage system needs to be collected and not allowed to run onto neighboring properties to create nuisance challenge on neighboring property." So we just need to make sure that's a legitimate system, and hopefully it operates the way it's supposed to. So once homes are there, we're not getting calls 6 months later of people complaining about getting water that's not theirs, because it's kind of already a hassle with existing Coleman Farms. So that was some commentary there that I have. Moving on to the city Public Works Director, you'll see in the packet some typical things about the drainage system operations and the notice of intent filed. He did note drain line on northeast side of property to catch runoff before it reaches adjacent property. How does the HOA access and maintain it? So I'm wondering if that's kind of the same comment I just shared with you. On street, show location of approach on lots or verify that meter placement won't be affected by driveways. Underwater, provide what water shares will be used to meet water requirements. Weaver Basin connection meter vault needs to include valve and SCADA for city SCADA and proposed power connection. And then underwater, do you have a contingency plan if Weaver Basin denies the water connection, is what he's getting at. Under other, on lot 12, he notes that the utility easement needs to continue around the entirety of the parcel. I think his point is right now it seems to cut across, almost like it's subdividing, and it may be misrepresentative or a little confusing in someone looking at the plat, thinking that that plat is, or that lot is more squared off, when really that easement should be around the entirety of the property. He's saying provide HOA. There were CCNRs included. I'm not exactly sure what his comments are there. So that's something I think that the team would just need to clarify with Mr. Douglas. And then irrigation lines that are being abandoned need to be disconnected at point of connection. City will require a letter from irrigation companies stating it's okay to disconnect. Comments from the police and fire are such that they don't have any recommendations or concerns. You'll see thereafter a report from the city engineer, which is significantly shortened, I think. So that's good. He just has a couple, 4 or 5 plat comments, concerns that he's noting. If you have any specific questions about any of those, please feel free to bring them up to either me and or the applicant team. Under site plan, again, a couple concerns about road names. He did note that both in the plat as well as further in the site plan, just making sure that they're the same road names throughout all the documentation. It's funny, he noted the same thing I did about just making sure that the right-of-way is clearly identified as ROW throughout the packet. And then talking about abandoned irrigation lines like the Public Works Director. Some notes under stormwater, and the stormwater maintenance plan and how it's put together. Some notes about the culinary water concerns. He's talking about a secondary or second 6-inch water supply line that was put on the site, and his concern is that it should be shut off, disconnected, and capped and removed. I don't know what the plan is for that, but that's just a note he has. And then the PRV vault details do not show power supply or SCADA control location for Weber Basin. Location for both need to be included in that, maybe again because we don't quite know what Weber Basin's plan is to provide water for the site. So you'll see the packet application thereafter, the fees being paid, review response comments from the engineer on the project to all the comments from the previous review, and then the actual subdivision drawings thereafter and the profile and plan and profile sheets for the subdivision. So with that, I know it's a lot of information, but defer to the Planning Commission to move forward from there with any questions or comments. Thank you.
Do we have a representative here for that? Would you like to come forward? Whoever? Yes, either or both. And state your name and your city of residence, please.
Josh Yates, Layton, Utah.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
I have one question on the Ritter Drive side of the subdivision. Will there be a fence put up along there? Is that the plan as you build the subdivision to include a fence along that would be the back side of those lots, right?
Right, yeah. At the moment, we've left it up to the residents. Have we addressed that with you at all? Do you have any?
I don't know that it's necessarily required. I mean, I'll have to look at the code and see, but
The reason that I'm asking is because Mike had mentioned in his comments that they're under the plat that please include lot number 1 through 7 will have no vehicular access to Ritter Drive. So as I understand it, if the owner of the lot puts up a fence or whatever, they are not allowed to put up any kind of an access to Ritter Drive onto their lot. Is that?
well, even with the note being on the plat, if the plat gets recorded that way, it's that just blocks it outright. We can say the plat says you can't have a driveway onto Ritter Drive and a story. So at that point, their only option will be to the internal drive aisles.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So having that note will control that from happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
That
when
was-
they pull a building permit, it'll have to comply with the plat.
Sure. That was my only question. Just wanted to make sure that was clear to whoever is purchasing those lots that they don't have that option.
And hopefully it would hit on a title research as well. If someone pulled the plat, they would hopefully see that note and make that very clear to whoever bought that lot.
I can make a note and add it to the CCNR also.
That's good.
That helps.
Okay, anybody else? Questions?
Once approval is done, when do you expect to start the project? Because I know this has been here a long time.
Well, we have to coordinate 3 landowners, and so there's a little bit of coordination that needs to happen. Are we going to bring in a common someone to help us 3 and then do it, or are we 3 going to work together to do it? Some of those questions are still being ironed out. And hopefully, the sooner the better. But the intent is to do it soon, but there's no current plan, with all the coordinating that we need to do among ourselves. Do you have any comments on that? On that one?
Jen Barlow with Service Mortgage Corporation. I live in Layton, Utah. I think the straightforward answer is we really don't know at this point.
When you're gonna start doing anything?
No, we don't.
Are you guys, so, are you doing the mortgage? Are you doing the?
No.
Okay.
No, we're one of the landowners.
Okay.
That's just the name of the company that owns Service Mortgage Corp. Is
Yeah.
the name of the owner.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I'd like to make a motion that we forward a favorable recommendation to the city council for the approval of the hillside at Riverdale subdivision. Property located at approximately 1550 West Ritter Drive, Riverdale, Utah 84405, as requested by Riverdale Living LLC and Service Mortgage Corporation, pending addressing the concerns and the items as addressed, as noted by staff before that is presented to the city council.
Do we have- We got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that's unanimous. Thank you so much. Okay, 4A, item 4A, consideration to recommend city council approval of the AFCU corporate campus subdivision property located at approximately 4624 South, 1500 West, Cozydale Drive, Riverdale, Utah 84405, as requested by America First Credit Union and AWA Engineering. Mr. Agate.
Thank you. And so we'll just focus on just the subdivision for the first discussion point then. The applicant group is AFCU, or America First Credit Union, sorry. They are represented by Natalie Nichols and Jake Tate as well as a partner on this project as the engineering staff. I guess you'd say the site area or the subdivision area address is approximately the 4624 South, 1500 West, or Cozydale Drive. The zoning is M1 zone. And the subdivision is basically realigning and adding the new, I guess you call it new 1500 West road alignment, and further clarifying the vacation of the old 1500 road and some of the internal roads. But those are part of a sister vacation plat that you've previously reviewed and recommended for city council. So I'm just trying to make sure that that's clear as far as the record, because there's a lot of moving pieces on this project. So there's really three huge components that all have to kind of come into play for this to move forward. That being said, this did come before the Planning Commission on April 26th for first review and preliminary approval consideration of both. The Planning Commission did approve the subdivision and the site plan at that time. There's no public hearing requirement. Ownership obviously is America First Credit Union, Federal Credit Union. The general plan for the area special use district, light industrial business park, which again with the subdivision, it really doesn't have as much impact. As far as the review comments for the subdivision, you'll see in the packet that I don't have anything that's jumped out as concerning relative to the actual subdivision. And then you'll see going down to the city staff as far as the public works director, that there's no concerns from the public works director relative to the subdivision itself. And then I don't have any comments or feedback from the, or excuse me, I have that backwards. I don't have comments or feedback from the public works director, but I do have comments and feedback from the police and fire, who don't have concerns about the subdivision. Looking at the city engineer review comments, the city engineer just noted with the plat itself, the existing sanitary sewer line easement that comes across I-84 is shown going south along the east side of ASU property, but stops prior to getting to the south property line. This easement needs to continue to the south property line, where the AFCU property abuts the property to the south, quote unquote, or in parentheses, Ted Heaps. There is an easement on Ted Heaps property that should continue to the north. That's his only comment on the plat. So that's a good thing. I only have one comment. That's a good thing. So, but again, this should be, I think it's pretty straightforward plat, even though it's very large. There's a lot of pieces too, but it's pretty straightforward. So with that, you'll see the application in the packet and the fee being paid for the subdivision itself, response comments that are both tied to this, as well as the next item with the site plan. and then the supporting documentation from the applicant for the subdivision design itself. And with that, I would defer to the Planning Commission for any questions or comments of me and or the applicant group on the subdivision. Thank you.
Anybody want to come forward?
My name's Jake Tate with Anderson Walden Associates, 2010 North Redwood Road in Salt Lake City. So good to be here. Just here to answer any questions. So
Okay,
anything you.
commissioners? Yes,
Chairman Eskelson, again, for the record, I'd like it known that I'm an employee of America First, just so we can set that aside, please.
thank you, Mr. Anderson. Does anybody have any questions or comments? If not, a motion would be in order.
I mean, it's a good thing you guys are doing.
Thanks. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun couple of years here as this expands.
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend with a positive recommendation to the City Council approval of the America First Credit Union Corporate Campus Subdivision property located approximately 4624 South, 1500 West, Cozydale Drive, Riverdale, Utah, as requested by America First Credit Union and AWA Engineering, pending all staff comments are satisfied before that point.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need to poll the commission on this one? Okay, voting is unanimous. Thank you so much. Do we need to go on to B?
Yeah.
Okay, item 4B, consideration to recommend city council approval of the AFCU Ops Building Site Plan, property located at approximately 4624 South, 1500 West, Cozydale Drive, Riverdale, Utah, as requested by America First Credit Union and AWA Engineering.
Let me
Mr.
go ahead. All right, great. So this is the secondary part of the application submittal for this. Again, this came before the Planning Commission on April 26th with the subdivision, and all the same information of the last item is pertinent. I will note that now, since we're talking about the development of the real estate, the current site has a data center facility in the area of the request for the ops building, and the otherwise area is undeveloped around the site. Let's see. This now, the special use district light industrial business park does comply with this use. It is listed as one of the uses outlined in the M1 zone, so that is compliant. Reviewing my comments in the planning and zoning, kind of hitting some of the yellow things. This is a minor thing. It's just the signage. We're not quite sure what the signage is, where the signage location is going, if there's any monument or pole signage identified, those sorts of things. So if you had any curiosity or questions about messaging and signage, that's something that you could ask. Obviously, thereafter, even with a site plan, they could always submit a sign application and we would review it as staff and follow the code. So it's kind of just more of one of those things. If you have concerns or questions, it is in the checklist, so that's why I bring it up. A design review committee will need to be held regarding the colorations and material, signage concepts, and landscaping plan. Again, Mr. Tate's very well versed in this by now, so I'm sure this isn't a surprise either. But that is something that will need to be done prior to going to City Council for final approval. So that is something that we will need to get finalized. I just noted on streetlights. I don't know if this is something I'm just not seeing, I don't understand, which is okay. I can be educated, but I just said any additional proposed streetlights on 1500 West other than the intersection points seems like will be awful dark on streets and may need more streetlights. So I defer to the Public Works. They're usually the lighting specialists, but it just seemed like there's a pretty long stretch, and maybe that's by design for now, and there's a future lighting plan, which again, it's probably just that I'm naive to the overall plan as far as the lighting design. So maybe I didn't see it, or I don't know. I did see it, the lighting at the intersection, but I didn't see it in between there. And then gutter inlet box with bicycle safe grates. I just noted that the gutter inlet boxes aren't identified as having bicycle safe grates. We just want to make sure it's clear. It's probably, the grate style probably already does that, but it's always nice to have it just added to say that, because especially as more and more people want to bike and, use those kind of facilities. Reviewing the Public Works Department or Public Works Director comments, some of the typical stuff for item 1 under stormwater. He does notice some engineering items with 2 and 3, stormwater prevention plan for construction needs to include garbage receptacle, some sizing, location, landscaping detail for detention basin, and note to certify retention detention structure size after construction on Cozydale. Riverdale City detail for catch basins and grates, and connect existing 18-inch storm drain at new roundabout if grades allow. And then under streets, street light design and placement. So it kind of mirrors my comment, I think, is kind of, he's asking something similar. I don't quite know the extent of what his comment is, other than I might have to find that out, but it's probably similar. All street signs need to be high intensity. Bicycle may use full lane signs and roundabouts. Note requiring contractor to use 3M thermoplastics, etc., and stenciling. Concrete approaches for billboard access, which I'm sure they're aware of and have that thought that out, and maybe it's just not clear on the drawings. Underwater, provide water shares may be used to meet water requirements. Water lines not on Cozydale /1500 need to be labeled as private, including the existing lines in the road that are going to be vacated, and then the typical notes that he requires. Under police and fire, police, there's no concerns at this time. Under fire, the fire marshal notes new fencing for data centers, concern for firefighter and apparatus access around both buildings. I think he's just asking how does the fire get, or how do the firefighters get in access to the buildings in the event of an emergency if they need to try to get around the buildings, and what's the thought process there? Access to FDC for the data center. Demo plans show hydrants to be removed and not relocating it. Add additional fire hydrant and locations. He's just wondering where those are at. If he doesn't see them, maybe guidance where they're at. And then turning radius on an access road shall be based on the turning radius of the anticipated responding emergency vehicles and must be approved by the fire code official. One thing he did note, he did say it's really hard when changes aren't clouded, when they're fire in nature specifically. He likes to see things clouded, so if changes are made or things are done, if they could just be clouded to signal to him where they've been made, or at least some kind of reporting, because maybe things were changed, he just hasn't been able to see it and recognize it. So that's something he asked. Going on to the engineer, under site plan, there's a couple 4 comments, some probably redundancies, some references to the geotech report, and the thicknesses tied to the geotech report being applied to the site beyond the city standards. Some conversations about the roundabout alignment and inlet boxes and that sort of thing. Again, I think the engineering team can review those comments and modify where appropriate and talk to Mr. Freeman. Under stormwater, a discussion about the existing 18-inch stormwater pipe that needs to be connected to the new stormwater pipe, and it needs to be at the 18-inch diameter. More discussion about how the existing pipe will need to be identified as private. Stormwater piping and catch basins along Cozydale /1500 appear to be excessive and could possibly be spaced out more to both save costs and reduce the number of stormwater catch basins. So it sounds like he has some ideas to help you save some money. So, stormwater piping has piping that appears to flow in the wrong direction in the development. Verify box flow elevation. Stormwater pipe connecting at 4400 needs additional design detailing information. Sanitary sewer, existing 12-inch connected needs to be detailed. Existing sewer pipe needs to be removed. Manhole to south needs to be removed. Additional pipe removed plug. No sewer line runs south from the sewer manhole to the south onto FCU property. Comment 2, proposed 8-inch sewer line shown on America First Boulevard connecting the existing 8-inch line on 1500 West. I think he's wanting that connection. That line shows a dead end and is flowing toward the dead end. Under culinary water, all water lines in the development need to be noted as private. Existing water line appears to be an ASU campus and will also be private. Water line connections at the proposed roundabout need to be detailed, kind of similar to some of his other comments in some of the other areas. And then water line connection at 4400 South needs to be detailed for the connection. Needs to show gate valve. The existing water line goes south on ASU campus will become private. So, again, looking at it, not too many questions considering, or not too many comments considering, but it's some very specific engineering things that might have some gravity that need to be looked at. So, and again, conversations with Mr. Freeman will clear up, I think, most of those pretty quickly. You'll see the application thereafter. You'll see the review comments from the AWA team thereafter, and then you'll see the actual. And then they provided some lighting plans, which was helpful, electrical plans, which helped to solve some of the questions I had. So that was appreciated. And then you'll see the actual packet document. I think it was 66 pages this time. So nice small one. So with that, I would defer to the Planning Commission if you have any other questions or comments for me or their team. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, commissioners, anybody? Questions, comments?
I can address a couple of the comments
Fine.
on the street lights. Though that direction came specifically from Mr. Freeman. So he said he only wants lights at the roundabouts, and in talking with AFCU, they would probably prefer some more too. We're happy to add them along the road, because I had the same.
I think we should maybe push back on Mr. Freeman, and I can help with that. I think that that's not very safe, especially if they're going to encourage any kind of pedestrian or bike access. So I will try to support you on that the best I can.
Our
How's that?
electrical engineer sent us the email. He's like, "Here you go, this is it." And so we like, okay. So we are looking into that, and we are happy to add some additional because we had the same feeling. Most of these are no issues. We did provide on the overall site plan, all the fire information is provided, so we'll get that clouded so that it's more easily acceptable, and easily to pick up. So I didn't see really anything else here that was difficult that would cause an issue or be a problem. So we can get these tightened up for the city council. If you have any comments or questions, I'll happy to answer them.
I don't know that it matters, but the only question that I have was about signage.
Yeah.
You know, is there going to be any pole signs planned?
I think we have some master plan signage, which we're working through right now. We will come back with a separate permit. Right now, we only have building signage that'll go in with this building, and just small AFC logos on the side of the building and things like that. So we do anticipate some type of signage as you're heading northbound on 1500 as you come to the new roundabout. We imagine there'll be some type of signage there indicating the AFCU campus, but we're working on getting a packet together that we can bring in for a formal signage packet approval. So.
Anyone else? Well, a motion would be in order.
Got to go up 200 pages.
Pardon?
See, we're on 4A or 4B. I make a motion to recommend to the City Council for the approval of the AFCU Ops Building Site Plan, property located at approximately 4624 South, 1500 West, Cozydale Drive, Riverdale, Utah 84405, as requested by America First Federal Credit Union and AWA Engineering, with all staff and city employees' concerns met.
We have a motion. Anybody a second?
And that's prior to going to city council. Oh, okay.
Prior to going to the City Council.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I second it.
Michelle, would you please poll the commissioners?
Commissioner Winfield?
Aye.
Commissioner Herman?
Aye.
Commissioner Escalson?
Aye.
Byers?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
And that is unanimous. Thank you so much.
And before you move on, I did want to note one thing that they've asked me to bring up. It's more just an FYI for the team, but they are requesting that we drop Cozydale Drive as it relates to their campus. So we'll see if the city council supports that as well, and just go with 1500 West, because it's kind of it's a mouthful, and really the question is, what does it even mean? Right? So
It used to be Cozydale, where that sign is and where, Motel 6 is. There used to be a mobile home park there before the freeway come through that was Cozydale.
oh, so that's what it's tied to.
where the name
There's the history.
Yeah.
I've always wondered. Well, there you go.
Everybody
Well, even
knows.
more so, maybe we should not sure.
When you're my age, you know a lot of that.
So I think the plan with their future site plan drawings and subdivision drawings is to reduce that just to 1,500. But I just want to make sure that that's clear, so you know, if it just changes straight out to 1,500 on future addressing, that's the reason for it. So
Makes sense where it's a business park.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, action item 5.
Jake, are you sticking around for this next one? Okay.
I do.
5A, consideration to approve and recommend city council approval of a small subdivision amendment for Riverdale Center 5 subdivision amended property located at approximately 4045 to 4113 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, as requested by CCA/Kornwasser Group and AWA Engineering Group. Mr. Eggett.
Thank you. Yeah, everything you said is just spot on, perfect. The zoning for this is regional commercial C3 zoning. The property area encapsulates basically, for the sake of knowledge of just the area, everything from the existing R.C. Willie property. There's multiple lots therein that are attached to this. I believe it's 4-lot subdivision, if I'm remembering. I think it's 4 lots. Anyway.
He's nodding.
Okay, 4 lots. Yeah. So R.C. Willie, some of the adjacent parcels, all the way over to Bed Bath and Beyond, and then the property behind Bed Bath and Beyond that will be part of the item 5B on your agenda. So that's what the subdivision encapsulates. This is a small subdivision amendment, so really, technically, this could technically go through one review tonight with the planning commission and be made with approval and recommendation to city council. You do have that discretion, that option. Obviously, you could table it, or you could even make a recommendation to deny, I guess, if you felt like that was appropriate. At any rate, the property ownership is Bonneview LLC, Riverdale Center North LLC, NSL 50 LLC, and DM Kimball LLC. That one always trips me up because I want to say DMK Kimball for some reason. Anyway, the parcels for the most part have existing buildings on them, and again, the one undeveloped property in the back will be the future proposed townhome apartment project proposal that will be on that, or be looking at that. The general plan designation for this area is planned commercial high. The proposed subdivision, again, is kind of neutral, but it generally still supports it with what's trying to happen with the subdivision. My review comments, the only thing I noted, which is really minor, is just on the final plat. The surveyor still is shown, and the signature will be provided at a future date. And then I don't even know that it's applicable. It's probably more applicable just to the townhomes, but the water rights, which again, Mr. Tate has become a pro in Riverdale City water rights. So I don't think there's a big issue there now with him understanding that. Mr. Douglas didn't comment on this one, so I would imagine he's not concerned about the subdivision itself, and there were no concerns or comments of issue from police or fire for the subdivision. The only thing noted on the subdivision itself from our city engineer, there were 4 bullet points he said. It said the bearings and distances on the overall plat do not close property, should include length of last leg and description to match what is shown on the plat. Third comment, lot 1 plat not provided individually for review, but bearing and distances shown close correctly. And then finally, city engineer approval block with some canned language he would like to see on the final plat. So with that, you'll see the application following, the fee being paid, the 2 pages showing the subdivision, one kind of with the as it appears on the ground and the buildings, and then the one with the outlines. And with that, I would defer to the planning commission if you have any questions or comments for me or the applicant. Thank you.
Okay. Is it you again? Thank you, Mr. Tate.
So, Jake Tate, Anderson Wallen and Associates, 2010 North Redwood Road, Salt Lake City, Utah. Happy to answer anything on this. I think the plat is pretty straightforward. There probably some more comments to address on the next one, but yeah, the intent here is just to kind of clean up that back property line between the commercial and the residential lot. It kind of, some of the commercial area actually comes onto the property we're going to be developing, so really the plat was kind of incidental to clean up that back area and make sure that it's clear which is commercial and which is residential. So
I will include just one comment from the, I hadn't planned to do this, but I'm thinking it through with the site plan. And Mr. Tate, you probably want to at least be aware of this. The front setbacks, this is kind of bleeding into B, but I think it's relevant to the plat. And so it may make you want to rethink some of the plat drawings for that back lot. Some of the units along the perimeter show a 16-foot setback, and there's a mandatory requirement of 20-foot front yard setback. We don't have the flexibility to shift that or move that. And I would say the front yard is where the front door is postured. It looks like the garages on the apartments will be kind of viewed almost in the rear, if you will, and there'll be a walkway in the front that they could walk to. So I think we would view those as the front yard, but a 16-foot setback's not enough. So your options in my mind are either redesign the plat internally, the project internally on the site plan, or change your plat lines a little bit to accommodate full 20-foot setbacks along all the homes.
Yeah, and I think we interpreted that as the front setback is the front that faces the street. So I think it always talks about in zoning codes where you have frontage. If you're a corner lot, you have dual frontage, and that's always the ones that face the street. So I see where you're coming from, but it does say your side yard setbacks are 16, which is why we set them at 16.
Yeah, and I would view it because when I look at our definition, it's the property line to the front of the structure is the front yard. So that's where the front setback would be applied, is how I view that. So at any rate, the reason I bring that up, even where they do approve the plat tonight, you still would have the ability to do some minor tweaks to the final plat that's brought to the city council with that understanding, if you feel like that was appropriate to solve that problem.
Yeah, that would be something we'll look into, because we'll look at if we have to shifting those buildings slightly, and potentially a little shift
Moving
in the
some
property
lines
line
around.
would assist that.
So that's why I wanted to raise that here, even though it's kind of out of context with the overall subdivision otherwise.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Commissioners? Nothing? Well, then a motion would be in order.
I would make a motion that we approve and forward a favorable recommendation to the city council to approve the small subdivision amendment for Riverdale Center 5 subdivision amended property located at approximately 4045 through 4113 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, as requested by CCA Cornwasser Group and AWA Engineering Group, pending any items noted by staff being addressed before presenting it to the council.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we'll go on to 5B. Consideration to approve Riverdale Townhomes preliminary site plan, property located at approximately 300 West Pacific Avenue, Riverdale, Utah, as requested by CCA Cornwasser Group, Revival Development, and AWA Engineering Group.
Thank you. And I was going to actually joke and say Mr. Tate should just stay at the rostrum, because he could have stayed there for the last 3 items. So that being said, we've added a new development partner on this one. It's Revival Development Group. That they're adding to the ownership of Cornwasser CCA on this project, and Mr. Tate is assisting in the engineering of the site. This is a preliminary site plan review request for the Riverdale Townhomes residential site plan. This is a multifamily residential zone property, R4, at that 300 West Pacific Avenue. The plan or the concept here would be for these to be townhome apartment residential uses. And there's no public hearing requirement for this kind of a request. As noted in the previous item, the ownership of this property solely is NSL 50 LLC and DM Kimball LLC. I did it this time, which is good. And the property currently is for the most part undeveloped, with the exception of a small access way that leads into some adjacent parking lot that's already been developed adjacent to the site and will become part of this lot as far as the subdivision is concerned, I think. Is that right, Jake? Does that sound right? Okay. There is a little teeny bit of this property too that will have that C3 zoning, which is just the roadway and a little bit of the parking lot. But again, that's not really an issue. It's not a problem that the lot has a little bit of cross zoning. That does happen from time to time in the city. So the general plan is planned commercial high. This proposed project, although it isn't a commercially established project, it's directly supporting planned commercial uses in the area by putting rooftops in the area, individuals in the area that hopefully then will benefit the commercial uses of the area. So that would be a supplemental benefit to the area with that being there, and obviously the zoning's already in place. Now to dip into the review comments, typical things we see on a preliminary review. We need to figure out addressing, and working with Mr. Tate, I can work with him on that, try to identify whether there's going to be one address lot and it's going to be, unit 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 45, or if each individual unit's going to get its own address, that sort of thing. So that's something that we'll have to figure out what the owners want to do for a numbering convention on that. Just make sure the property owner's name is somewhere on the documentation, and their address and their phone number, and also the developer if it's separate from the owner or the same, whatever. Approving agency's name and address isn't provided on the drawings at this point. Again, the layout of lots with lot address, already talked about that. Adjacent property tract ownership names with tax IDs not shown. Existing easements, if any, not shown. Existed and anticipated exterior lighting devices not shown being street lights that I could see. Maybe I'm just missing something, which again, it's okay if I'm missing something. I can be corrected. I don't believe there's any anticipated subdivision signage. Typically, if there is, it's temporary anyway, usually, unless it's trying to, I guess they could have a small identification of whatever townhome apartments or whatever townhomes. So there could be signage planned later in the future. Let's see. Height and sizes with multiple homes. I'm not quite sure what the range of heights will be and the size of the structures will be. I think we have kind of an idea when we look in the drawings what we're expecting. Some kind of stacked structure, probably 2 or 3 different floors with the garage in the back and the front door in the front. So at least we have an idea, but I don't know the exact numbers. The setback note for the about 15 units around the north and the northeast that I just referenced a few minutes ago. This is just a note in the numbering. It says provide additional stalls is 93 stalls, not 96. They double counted. There's a number that was times by 2, and then there were 3 additional units or parking stalls added that the math doesn't support. So it's just a small math issue that could be easily rectified. Under right-of-way line, same thing, shown but not clearly identified as right-of-way. Light poles, anticipated exterior light poles not shown, street lights not shown. Existing proposed street lights along 300 West Pacific Avenue not shown. Gas lines, there's just a note in there. It says line, and this applies to gas, cable, and telephone. So in order to speed this up, there's a note that says lines are not part of these plans, but our checklist does require that we look at the size and type of these utilities. So for that purpose, I've identified that they're not shown. But again, there is a note on the drawings that they're not part of it, that will be coordinated. Typically, once the project gets going, they like to coordinate those things with the actual utility companies thereafter. So that would be that. New electrical lines and new power pole locations are not shown currently. Again, probably for the same reasons. That's something that will be coordinated at a later date. Thrust blocking not shown if applicable. Water rights need to be worked out and working with the Public Works Director. Again, Mr. Tate's typically aware of that in all the projects he works on at this point. Moving on to the Public Works Director, there's quite a few comments there. I won't read all over them. I think Mr. Tate can understand and read over those and work through those. Under stormwater, streets, street light design and placement, kind of same comment I made. Street names and signs, street signs. I'm not exactly sure what he's looking for where it's an apartment. I don't know if he still thinks there might be internal drives, but
Yeah, there won't be any street signs.
so locations for snow removal, stacking on site, and then trees are not allowed in city-owned park strips. That's the new landscaping update. So obviously that's something that you'll just need to have your landscape architect look at. Water, backflow preventer location, type and size, proposed irrigation sprinkler system plan must include a smart clock, provide water usage peak demands, provide what water shares will be used, okay, label water lines as private, sewer, proposed flows, label sanitary sewer lines as private, and then his notes he likes to see on the drawing somewhere. No comments from the police or fire on this one, which is good. The fire's comfortable with that. Moving down to the city engineer, then we have the unit numbering comment, some comments about stormwater that are very specific notes and things that I think can be addressed by the engineering team. And if there's any questions, Mr. Freeman can be contacted. Under culinary water, he just says, is the single 1-inch irrigation meter large enough to supply the full site? How is water supplied to all areas of landscaping? Under sewer, manholes with more than 2 connecting pipes should be 5-foot diameter manholes. Final connection manhole in city street should be replaced with a 5-foot diameter manhole. So again, not for a preliminary review. That's a pretty short amount of comments from our city engineer. I'm actually kind of surprised to be candid. So, with that, I would defer to the planning commission if you have any questions for me and or the applicant. And you can see, I forgot to note, but the application and the supporting documentation is found at the bottom. So, with that, I'll defer.
I'm just wondering why there wouldn't be street names?
Because they're not dedicated roads. They're just internal kind of drive accesses.
Right.
We approached it originally to do it with road things. Well, I guess it wasn't roads. It was individual lots is how we approached it originally.
Yeah,
Like
originally
each house would have its
thought-
own
yeah.
lot. But to do that, we would have to have dedicated roads, which means they had to be 60 feet wide, which means then all of a sudden that property becomes undevelopable. So if we keep it private, they're just internal drive lanes. They're not like a dedicated road or anything. So it's just internal.
So they'll have an address.
Yes.
General address. And
So either there'll be there might be a lot address. It might be like, I don't know what is
The
the
general address and a lot.
326 Pacific Avenue, for instance, or something like that. And then it might be units
Unit
1 through
number.
45, or we might address each individual lot. Kind of depends on whatever numbering convention the
What,
owners
what I've
want.
seen in the past and what we've done on similar ones where it's a for rent product rather than a for sale product is they'll do like a block. So each block of homes will have like a letter, and you'll have A
Oh, got
1 2
it.
3 4
Okay.
5, B 1 2 3 4 5, and then there'll just be one address for the whole development, and then
Okay.
you'd say unit C3 or whatever or
Are
something. like
you,
that.
are you going to allow parking on the street?
Well, we're not going to encourage it. I don't think that we can stop it, but we do have that. I think Mike was suggesting that in the back there's probably 50, 60 stalls that are on the behind us that are actually on this lot that will be, the residents will be told this is your extra parking. We're providing access and walkway directly from there to the project, and that's where they'll be encouraged. But we're not planning on street parking, but I think just the nature of multifamily, you're going to
So
get
this
some.
private drive, is this going to be maintained by the city or by the,
No, that's one of the reasons it's not a city street. Yeah.
Yep, all the utilities are like private. The water lines, sewer lines are private, and
and you would possibly have the authority to make it
yes,
mandatory that they're not parking on the street and require them to park in the back?
yeah, I would anticipate that would be
onto it.
part of the agreement or the HOA kind of document.
The only thing we can't limit, because the private right of way or public right of way is public, is obviously parking still occur on 300 and Pacific Avenue, and we couldn't regulate
No, but
that.
I mean,
but
the
yeah,
drive,
internally.
the part that they're
Oh
calling
yeah,
the drive.
internally, yeah, especially where they're going to be narrow. I don't think they would want them. But there's a couple of internal designated stalls. Obviously, all the units have parking stalls, and then like he said, there's a large. It looks like you said about 30-40 capacity parking area to the north.
I just have concerns for emergency vehicles and anything like that coming down there if there is off-street
Yeah,
parking.
I think that would be definitely important to keep those clear, the internal drives clear, and
Right.
either
Thanks.
park in your garages or park in designated parking stalls.
All right, thanks.
And this would be actually an approval because it is a preliminary review. Just make that clear for the motion. So.
Thanks. Okay, if nobody else has anything, a motion would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Riverdale Townhomes preliminary site plan located at approximately 300 West Pacific Avenue, Riverdale, Utah, as requested by CCA, Kornwasser Group, Revival Development, and AWA Engineering Group, pending completion of and satisfaction of.
On this one, there doesn't need to be a pending because it's just a preliminary review. It will come back to the planning commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't need it pending for staff.
Not on this one because it's just a preliminary review.
Okay.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Any comments from the planning commission or city staff?
I don't think I have anything right away. No.
I think you've had quite a bit.
Well, I will note one thing that's just a kind of an interesting FYI, and it gives you it gives you a mind of the state legislature right now. We are currently going through a state legislative auditor review of an RDA that has since recently ended, being our 1050 West RDA, and it has been very time consuming as staff and very involved, and they want everything in the kitchen sink. And it's pretty hard to find information going back to 1993 and 1997 when you've only worked here for as many years as those of us doing the audit have. So it's been pretty intense. But my point in bringing it up isn't so much to say poor staff, but it's just, it shows you where the legislature is if they're making orders to have those kind of audits occurring. And in my understanding, they're doing 25 jurisdictional audits of 25 unique RDAs throughout the state. So if they're doing that kind of an audit, you have to kind of wonder why.
Yeah, is it that they're looking at were you in compliance with?
It's that sort of review. Yeah. Yep. How was the money spent? What were the objectives? Were the objectives met? Did it do what it says? Are you abusing the program somehow? I think that's the secondary motivator, is what it feels like. So I just want to let you know that is out there, that thought process. And we don't know the legislators. We have an idea. There's a legislative sponsor, there's a legislative requester, and then there has to be a sponsor in order for them to get the Auditor General to do the work. But it has been ordered and it's in process. So hopefully almost done, knock on wood. It's been exhausting, for lack of a better word. So
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.